What do I have to say about 2021? It was the worst year of my life. And yet, I overcame so much. It's been 2 years since I've seen my family. December of 2020, I got COVID. That was the loneliest Christmas I ever had. And I promised myself I would never have another Christmas by myself. And believe it or not, this year, I was almost pretty well convinced I wasn't going to go see my family. My dad. He's pretty much the greatest dad you could ever ask for. He's always been there for me. I am who I am because of him. And while my dad doesn't always have the best advice, and sometimes he doesn't really understand what I'm doing, but he always does his best, you know. My dad's a great guy. My stepmother, Debbie, they're soulmates. It's funny because for years I could never understand why he was with her. But you know, I'm older now and I see things differently, and now I realize, now I get it. She's always been there for him. I'm grateful for that. There's so much uncertainty in this life. You don't know how long you're going to be here. Life is all about perspective. I can focus on all the terrible negative things that have happened to me this last year, and there were a lot. But what good does that do me? All it does is piss me off, and then I'm not even looking forward to the future. But if I focus on the good things, I cannot wait to see my dad. It's been 2 years too long. And my parents don't do a lot. My parents are very, very secluded. They're very private. They like their alone time. They are the quintessential homebodies. They love to watch their movies and their TV shows. And that's about it.
Hello! Who is that?
Hey, dude.
Give me a
Freaking camera.
Oh my
see
god,
you,
I
man.
haven't seen you guys in
Good.
so long. I missed you guys so much.
What are you doing?
I'm filming for my vlog. Because I wanted everybody to see me seeing my parents for like the first time forever. It's been so long. Oh, it's totally out of focus. Oh, whatever, fuck it.
I wish I could have shared more with you, but it turns out my family is terribly camera shy. So I wasn't allowed to turn the camera on when they were around. So my dad retired last year, and it was probably one of the best decisions he's made, because he was talking about working for at least another 3 years. And I'm so glad that he finally decided to retire. When I was a kid, my dad and I used to build model rockets and model cars. And I was pretty big into that as a kid. Seeing my dad, seeing how happy he is, and all of his cool toys and his models and his little collection of things that he has. And, you know, there's this lifetime of history and all the things that are in his room. There's a story with every single one of them. And I love that, you know, we could spend hours in that room talking about all the different things that he's got in there. It's the little things that make doing what you want to do worthwhile. One of the cool things about my dad is he's a gamer. just like his son. We have so many fun things in common. I love that he has the time to do that. You know, he gets up and he has his coffee, he just builds those models all day long, watches his favorite TV shows, and he's happy, you know. And he has now picked this up and he started getting into shipbuilding. He loves his shipbuilding and he loves his car building, but he very specifically loves shipbuilding, which is funny because we've never owned a boat. I never knew that he was into that. The conversation came up about what I'm doing with my life, and you know, I just laid it out for him. I said, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing, this is what I plan to do, and this is what I want to do. And he said, you know what? Don't give up. Don't you give up, son. I'll never give up. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to do it a lot differently than what I've been doing. It's definitely time to change things up. As a kid growing up, my dad had a 67 Oldsmobile 442 Cutlass Supreme, and I loved that car. I remember I was in the military and I got a call. My dad said, I sold the car, and I was shocked and I felt really let down because I was supposed to get that car. Here's the really cool thing about what my dad did here. He found the original paint, this gold flaky kind of paint. He found that paint and then he painted it so it's the exact color of what the car looked like when he bought it. The only difference was that the top had a black leather top on it. I think one day if I could, I would find one of these and I would restore it exactly the way Dad had it. Best gift ever, Dad. Thank you. So after the holidays, I said my goodbyes. It was so good to see my family again. 2 years is long enough. I met up with my old friend Danielle that I hadn't seen in years. And Danielle is my junior high crush. I had a big crush on her when I was a kid. We found each other on Facebook and we just always stayed friends, and she looked so happy. She's always had such a great smile. Smiles are usually one of the first things I look at when I look at someone. It had been so long, you know, since I had spent some time downtown. In the previous years that I had come up here, I would only visit family. I didn't bother going anywhere else. I think it's just because I got a bit burned out with Sacramento, but you know what? Coming back and spending some time out here, I realized just how beautiful this city is. There's so much history here. You've got old historic buildings for miles. They're everywhere. At every block, there's a beautiful historic building. They're well preserved, they're well taken care of. It truly is a beautiful city. And I just had to go to the Old Town District, which has always been one of my favorite places. In fact, I lived just 5 minutes walk from there about 12 years ago. I used to work out here. I was a bartender for many years, and I had worked at a couple different places in Old Town Sacramento. One of them being Laughs Unlimited, which is a comedy club. Old Town Sacramento's got a lot of history. In fact, they say it's the one town that should never exist. Because I think, if I remember correctly, it burned down twice and flooded. Or maybe it burned once and flooded twice, I don't remember exactly. But this city should not exist. And yet, it was so proliferant in the economic trading. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the Old Town area. A lot of these places are well over 100 years old or older. There's an underground part that's even older than that. And by the way, Old Town Sacramento is unbelievably haunted. Just about every single building has some sort of haunt in it. All those buildings are haunted. There's not a single building that doesn't have some sort of haunt going on. But aside from that, again, it's such a beautiful place. There's a lot of rich history here. It's a very family-friendly environment. There's lots of great places to eat, cool bars. There's plenty to do in Old Town Sacramento. It's a great place to go. If you ever come to Sacramento, definitely see the Capitol and definitely come to Old Town Sacramento. Along the way, I met up with my friend Megan, who I met probably 6 months ago. She found me through my channel. We have a friendly relationship. She wanted to show me this trail. You know, in all the years that I lived out here, I have never been to this park or this trail. I never knew that it was there, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, that is one of the great things about living in Sacramento, is that they have all of these trails along the river, the bike trails. They're unbelievable. It's just amazing. Megan has just got a beautiful soul. She's such a beautiful woman, and very caring and very loving, and she's just a great friend. I've actually always wanted a dog. These dogs are just cute as hell. You can't help but love these guys. Walking these dogs, it really kind of, you know, having a dog or a pet or whatever, it's like having a very excited kid with you all the time. And while sometimes that can be kind of a nuisance or annoying, but I mean, they just love you so much, you can't help but love them back, and can't help but be excited about all of the things that they're excited about. When I went to leave, she had actually left me a present with a card, and she said some, you know, beautiful things, and it just kind of filled my heart up. I'm on my way to my buddy's house out in Roseville for the New Year's party. And I'm like, you know what, screw it, I've got some time. I'm gonna go down Nostalgia Lane. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go see my old house that I grew up in. It was so cool and actually really hard to see that house, because there was so much history there. And I'm really sad that we don't have that house anymore. They sold the home, and you know, I don't have access to those memories anymore. I only have them in my heart and my soul. It was cool to see these places and see how much they've changed, because the time I've spent out here, these roads that I rode my bike on so many times were hardly recognizable. I didn't recognize the street. I didn't recognize the buildings. There was so much different about this place. It was unbelievable. My school had completely transformed. It was almost unrecognizable. And then I go to see my grandparents' house, and that's where I spent most of my time. Most of my memories are at my grandparents' house. Most of the memories that really mattered to me were there. It's hard to look at it, but it was good. I needed to see that. I don't think about them as much as I used to, but I miss them. I miss them a lot. After New Year's, I was excited to finally head home and get my life started, get my new life started, and I had big plans for what I had planned on doing. And unfortunately, the van broke down. So there was a loose terminal that needed to be refitted, so we ended up just replacing the terminals, and there's some kind of short that's draining the battery, and we're suspecting it has something to do with the dome light fuse and the dimmer switch. Unfortunately, none of us are electricians, and we're not knowledgeable in how to fix that, and so I'm basically stuck here. Luckily, my friend Brandon has been really helpful and trying to help us figure it out. His dad has also been really helpful, and honestly, it was not the way I'd planned on ending my story, but you know, again, it's all about perspective, right? Unfortunately, it's been a much more costly trip than I had expected, but God, the memories and the experiences that I've had in just these few days, worth it. Absolutely worth it. And so I end yet another episode of Baby leaving me stranded, but I'm not lost. I still have hope for the future. I still have great things that I want to do, and I know I'm going to get there. I know I can do it. It's just going to take a little bit longer than I thought. And I'm okay with that.